Welcome to the Eonics Podcast, a podcast about software development, new ways of working, and lots of other interesting topics. Today I have a returning guest, Johan Stolk. Welcome.
Thank you.
I could call you, I think, a senior .NET developer. Is that an accurate description?
You could call me that.
I'm pretty sure you are a pretty senior .NET developer.
I'm pretty senior, that's for sure. But I also did Java and C++, but professionally I'm doing .NET most of the time.
Yeah, but a lot of experience with software development in general. And
40 years.
40 years, that's a long time. And you have given a hack night recently on the topic that's of Blazor. That's why I wanted to talk to you.
Yep.
It's a very hot new thing in .NET space.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what it is? Blazor?
Blazor, it's a combination of things. So it is mostly used for the front-end development. So you could see it as a alternative to Angular.
Right.
But also it can be used inside desktop applications and inside apps.
So it's kind of a universal front-end
language
for all platforms.
Yeah, so if you want to build a UI and you want to use the web space, so HTML, CSS, and then your favorite technique, like for instance Tailwind, and then you can build your UI using those tools and also using Blazor to create the components. So like with Angular, you can create components, and that's also possible in Blazor. You can create reusable UI components and then use them everywhere in your application.
Right.
And so, of course, you can use it on the web front end, but if you want to use it in the desktop or in the apps, then basically what is done is it is running inside a web view. So it's like a mini browser.
Right. And what is unique about it, from what I remember from the hacknet, is that you can use it's not using JavaScript.
Right. That's also my favorite part. You can use C# now in everywhere in your code. So if you're a .NET developer, of course you're used to using C# on the back end, but now you can use it on the front end as well.
So does it mean no JavaScript or TypeScript at all, basically?
No TypeScript, and maybe if you want to use, you can use TypeScript, but why should you? You can hook into existing JavaScript frameworks. Right. So, for instance, if you want to use Chart.js for drawing graphs, or want to use WebGL or anything that's available in the browser world in JavaScript, you can just call it using JavaScript interoperability. So you can call methods from Blazor to JavaScript, and also the other way around. So it's pretty easy to do interoperability with that.
And from what I remember when we first talked about it, you actually started using it first to develop a game, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, well, that was a hobby project. I started to. There was, I think, 2 years ago in my company at that time, they asked me to set up a new architecture for new software. And then I started looking around, of course, what kind of cool techniques are there that I can choose from, because they were using Angular. And I'm not really a TypeScript, JavaScript fan. Also not really experienced, so that's probably related. And I really like C#. So then I saw this Blazor thing, and it was, then it was relatively new, and it was just becoming more mature. So that's why I thought I was diving into it, and I was really liking it. And also then I picked up some other techniques like Tailwind and Fluxor for state management. Tailwind is more for the CSS side of things. So that's how I came into contact with Blazor. But then as a hobby project, I decided, or I always like to do stuff with games. So I had a game in C++ written years ago, and I thought, well, maybe it's nice to see if I can port this to the Blazor side. So that's something I also showed in the Ignite. That's.
But is it the backend is in C#, but is the game engine actually written in C#, or how does it work exactly?
Yeah, everything is in C#, and there's not really a back end because it's just downloading textures and models and then doing some rendering. So there's the game engine, sort of, so to speak. That's something I just built myself. But
cool.
It was
in C#.
In C#,
and then it's the game runs in the web browser.
Right, it runs in the web browser, and the challenge was to have it, of course, fast with games, and especially 3D. You want to have it fast. So then, to do 3D rendering, I used WebGL because, on the browser there are not much other options as far as I know. And so then the interoperability from Blazor to WebGL using the normal JavaScript interoperability was a bit too slow because they use JSON serialization to transfer
so you had
the
to
data.
Convert back and forth all the time.
Yeah, but there was an alternative, like it's called unmarshaled JavaScript interoperability, and that's really fast. So I started to optimize the bottleneck things, and then I got it to work quite fast, because the examples I found on the internet about 3D in Blazor they were not that great in terms of performance. So that was just a hobby side project, but it's always interesting.
Sounds pretty cool, though.
Yeah, I kind of like the result. It's not finished, but it's a hobby project. So.
And to throw in another buzzword, where you can see that I don't know a lot about this stuff, is that then also running in WebAssembly or not?
Yeah, so the idea of Blazor is that you actually have a couple of different flavors. So Blazor, first version was Blazor Server, where the code would actually run on the server, and the communication was done using Signal R. And that's all very nice, but not so interesting, I think, because you get server load and all kinds of benefits you have with the other flavor, which is called WebAssembly. You don't have with server. So I chose, and I think it's also the most popular option, the Blazor WebAssembly flavor. And in that case, the C# code actually gets translated to WebAssembly, and that can run in the browser.
Yeah, I think that's just so cool as a computer science person that they developed a whole assembly language. Basically.
Yeah, WebAssembly was already in all the browsers.
Yeah.
I didn't know that before I started to look at Blazor, but
I think it's a really cool technology.
Yeah, so it's you can have JavaScript, but you can also run WebAssembly, and you can compile even Rust or C or other languages.
Yeah, you can use it as a how do you call that? Just basically like a platform, so you can just write a compiler that compiles to WebAssembly, right? For almost any language. Basically.
Yeah, so if you have WebAssembly compiled code, then you can run it in the browser, and that's quite interesting.
And quite fast, right?
It's also fast. There's one drawback with Blazor WebAssembly, that is because it's running in the .NET runtime, they have to download the .NET runtime to the client. And I don't think that is much of a problem, but some people in the beginning were complaining that it's a bit slow to start. But
can't that be like somehow cached or something?
Of course it's cached. So it's only the first time you maybe experience a small delay, like loading, and then see a spinner, and it's
probably like minified and whatever.
Yeah, right. And they also they do like some kind of tree shaking, so they only send the stuff that is needed to the client.
Application.
Yeah, so I don't think it's a problem. But also there's something which is very hot. That is called Blazor United. This will be in .NET 8, so at the end of the year they will probably release it. And then they have like a mix, so you can create your web application using Blazor United, and then if you first go to the application, then they use like a Blazor server technology. So then in the background they all already start downloading or uploading or whatever. They start transferring the .NET runtimes to your browser. So that's looks like the best of both worlds.
Right.
So a lot of stuff happening in the Blazor world.
Yeah, it sounds like it is becoming kind of a foundational technology in .NET space.
Yeah, Microsoft is really pushing it, and a lot of developers are also very enthusiastic about it. And
is it basically the main front-end technology for .NET?
No, not really, because there's also .NET MAUI, and that's you used to have WinForms. That's really old, and you had WPF based on Direct3D. And then, of course, then the mobile platforms came. Then you had Xamarin.
Oh yeah,
Xamarin Forms.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they bought Xamarin, and now the evolution of Xamarin is .NET MAUI. So
that's specifically for mobile development, or
no? That's also for desktop. So this is a unified platform to build applications, but then that's another approach. So you use like the XAML kind of syntax, like with WPF and Xamarin.
Oh, so
that's another.
You prefer the Blazor approach, basically?
Well, I have not. I did use WPF in the past, and I kind of liked it. But the .NET MAUI I have not used because I'm creating web applications at the moment, also in my new assignment.
Oh, MAUI is not specifically geared towards web.
It's not at all.
Not at all.
No, okay. It's like for desktop application and mobile and apps. Yeah.
Okay. And so the difference then is that Blazor eventually can target all.
Yeah.
And MAUI is
not
for the web.
Yeah, as far as I know, because I'm not really into .NET MAUI. It was also postponed because it was. I think it's officially released, but I haven't used it yet. But I know how to build UI now in Blazor, so I don't see
any need for it.
Not at the moment, but it could be interesting in the future. It's one of the two ways you can choose now if you want to create the UI in .NET. And
probably there are some advantages if you really make it. If you already know that your application is geared towards the desktop only, then probably there might be some it's faster or whatever to do something like MAUI. Okay, thanks for sharing your knowledge. And what I would like to say is, in the Hack Night, you also had a great workshop where people could tinker with some Blazor code. You don't need a lot of knowledge or a lot of stuff. You need Visual Studio and a .NET.
Yeah, actually, I prefer JetBrains Rider. Myself,
JetBrains Rider.
You can use Visual Studio, of course, or VS Code.
And then basically you have kind of a demo application set up with where you can tinker with Blazor. What was the other things?
With Tailwind and also with Swagger if you want to access APIs, or with Fluxer if you want to do state management. So it's kind of an introduction to these techniques, and it's
and
you can play with it, and there's some example code in it.
Yeah, and I will include below this podcast a link to the video, which has like the presentation, the demo, and the intro to the workshop. And that will also include a link to the presentation, includes a link to the GitHub page where you can start tinker with the code. And then if people have questions,
just contact me.
Exactly. Our resident Blazor expert. Thanks so much for sharing your knowledge, Johan. And hope to speak again.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye-bye.